Mike Cardano with Roto Experts and Fantasy Sports Network, here to talk to you today not about who to pluck off your waiver wire, not who you should start and sit, or who to jettison from your team because of poor anticipated performance, but who to roster from a moral standpoint, which to me is the silliest topic since the inception of fantasy sports. But everyone's talking about it, so we'd be doing you a disservice if we didn't go ahead and cover this topic. Now, yesterday, before Adrian Peterson was ruled out for the second time this week, I was a guest on Game Time Decisions with host Gabriel Morency right here on the Fantasy Sports Network, my regular spot, and he asked me if I was morally opposed to having Adrian Peterson on my roster. And here's what ensued.
Mike Cardano with us. And yeah, my team had 113 points this week, which I was actually pretty proud of because my team in week one didn't do quite as good as that. But I'm 1-1 now, so I'll take it. I'm 1-1. We're playing in a 12-man league. So, and somebody in our league does have Adrian Peterson. So I wanted to get your take on this, Mike. And I don't want to get into the social aspects and all this type of stuff. You know, we know that they just mismanage everything. Except you know you're in trouble when you're the NFL when Rihanna's taking shots at you now. when Rihanna is taking pot shots at you, Goodell, you got problems. But that's besides the point. So Adrian Peterson was deactivated. And now he's activated, which I don't really understand. The Vikings could have taken the high road. They're going to lose anyways against the New Orleans Saints. So I don't really know why they're rushing him back. They could have taken the high road and then brought him back after this football game against the New Orleans Saints. But it's funny because, you know, if you read Twitter and you watch talk shows and you talk to people, Mike, you know, 99.9% of people, Ray Rice is a scumbag. He should have gotten way more than 2 games. Yet somebody took Ray Rice in my fantasy league. Pat Mayo was talking about how he thought Ray Rice was going to be a steal in fantasy drafts because nobody wants to touch him because of the domestic abuse. And now everybody's ripping Adrian Peterson like he's the worst person in the world. Yet I don't see a lot of people releasing him from their fantasy football teams, which makes fantasy football players every bit as hypocritical as Roger Goodell and the low-life NFL owners, Mike.
Well, you know, for the first time last night, during the Monday night game last night, I got a tweet from a professor from Boston College who happens to be following me, and he asked me, what did I think about cutting Adrian Peterson from a moral standpoint from his fantasy team? I said, that's great, but he's playing this week, not if you want to win. You know, there's two different things. You're playing a fictitious game. It's fantasy sports. So you got to put the best player out there. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Peterson. You know, Radisson Hotels dropped their sponsorship of the Vikings last night.
So you're saying, Mike, that you have a lower standard than Radisson Hotels?
Listen, if I want to win the league and he's the best running back out there, why am I not going to play him?
All right, so you don't.
I'm going to win money.
So you don't have a problem then with Peterson playing next week then? And I'm not. Listen, I'm not trying to be confrontational and like, oh, you believe this. I'm just trying to put it in context. So you don't have a problem with Peterson playing?
Here's the thing, Gabe. Here's the thing. My personal belief is I think the law should say. I mean, with Ray Rice and Peterson, I don't think the employer should have to make the choice of whether he plays or not. I mean, if they're doing something wrong, these guys should be in jail, and then they can't play the game from behind bars. So if they're not in jail and they deal with the legal system, I don't see what going to work, what they do during the day, has to do with anything. So, you know, what he does in his own time is his own business. If he's doing something illegal, they should go to jail. But he's playing football for a living, and he's on my fantasy football team. I want him in.
But he's not on your team, right?
I do have him on one of my teams, yes.
Yeah, you do? See, I get this out of you. You're like, yeah, I actually do. I just find it fascinating. So, but you know, I haven't seen you. I don't think you're a hypocrite because I haven't seen you railing about this stuff. And I kind of agree with you as well. Although I don't know if that's the bar that you want to set for your league. If you're not behind bars, you're good with us. I don't know if that's
a moral problem. I have a big moral problem with what he's done with Ray Rice, does everything. But to me, it has nothing to do with me playing fantasy sports. But listen, like I said, we're playing fantasy sports. It's a fictitious, made-up concept to begin with. Well, if I got to go and inject a dose of reality into all this thing, it ruins all the fun.
There's Mike Cardano with us. Check him out.
Now, little did I know this topic was going to be such a firestorm. Scott Engel and Adam Ronis spent the better part of 3 hours on the Roto Experts in the Morning program on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio this morning, taking calls from people who are weighing in on the topic of what the moral thing to do as a fantasy owner is. What are we talking about? What morals? Hello, McFly, anybody home? We are playing a game here. This is fantasy. By definition, there's nothing realistic about what we are doing. Did any of you ever discipline the Easter Bunny for leaving eggs in an unsafe place where somebody might trip on one? Are we going to now sanction Santa Claus for giving us the wrong size clothing as a gift? We actually had a group of state troopers yesterday who petitioned their league commissioner to ban Adrian Peterson from their league. What are we doing? If I had to release everybody from my fantasy football roster who broke one of the 10 commandments, I wouldn't be able to field a team. I'd have to play in a 16 league to make sure that there were enough players to go around. We are playing fantasy. We do this for enjoyment. It's a leisure activity. If anyone thinks that they're going to make a difference in the world by only having moral, upstanding citizens on their team, they've lost it. This isn't a situation where a corporation is employing child labor and you can make a statement by not buying their product affecting their bottom line. No person or entity suffers from you not rostering a player that's a moral moron or uses poor judgment. If you have a team filled with Tim Tebows and I have a team filled with players that are clearly on the express train to hell and you're in my league, you're going to lose. Trying to merge the world of fantasy and the world of reality is a losing proposition. Deal with this serious stuff at work and at home with your family. This is a game of pretend. It's a game of fantasy. If you've got waiver wire or start and sit questions for me for week 3, shoot me a note on Twitter at Mike Cardano and I'll see if I can help steer you in the right direction. The rest of you, I'll see you right back here tomorrow on the Fantasy Sports Network.